I got onto this issue back in around March of 2007, and I had never heard of these reports until I was contacted by a researcher down in Pasadena who goes by a screen name Pinnacle. He doesn't use his real name because he's got FOIA requests pending, and he doesn't want to, compromise his, he doesn't want to endanger his chances of having success with those FOIA requests. So anyway, he told me to go look at some evidence on the internet, and I did. And the more I got into this, the more I realized that there was something going on here, and he was right. And so I took it from there. My first article, I think, appeared on the internet around April of 2007, and shortly after that, Pinnacle discovered some raw footage from 9/11 that had been taken by a CNN cameraman. And this is not just a brief clip. This is like an 18 or 19 minute piece of raw footage that had had photographed, shot this plane over the White House. And this had never been shown on national television, and I was able to get a copy of it. He found it in the CNN archives. It had been gathering dust for 6 years. It had never been shown on TV. I called up CNN and got permission. I got a screener's copy of it, and began to study it. And we pulled some photos off of it, some still shots, and we were the first ones to post these on the internet in the summer of 2007. And I got permission from CNN. I had to pay, of course, it's proprietary footage, so I had to pay for the rights. And I think we embarrassed CNN because on September the 12th, 2007, they ran a segment on national television, a short one. It was only about 3 or 4 minutes. But they had some of the same footage from this raw footage from 9/11 that had never been shown. They had their own report with John King running through this thing, and it was very brief, and it didn't touch on everything. There were a lot of things they didn't get into, but it did verify that this plane was there. And that was new. That was important, because it was not part of the official story.
Right.
The E stands for electronics. And that's, it's not an understatement. Now, that's why they call it an E-4B. This thing is just packed with the latest electronic hardware. In fact, this is a command and control plane designed to substitute for the Pentagon in case of a national emergency when the Pentagon is knocked out. This thing can communicate with every single U.S. military command worldwide, Army, Navy, Air Force, even submarines. And it has all kinds of antennae on this thing. There's a special pod behind the cockpit which is unique to this plane, and that was one of the ways we identified it. It's just packed with antennae in there and various kinds of communications equipment. So this is a 747 modified Boeing 747. It's painted white to hopefully allow it to survive a nuclear strike. And this thing normally flies around 35,000 or 40,000 feet. Now, we had this thing flying very low over Washington. And now, I should mention that when the radar data was released, we were able to this analysis was actually going on as my book went to press, so it's not all in the book. Unfortunately, we didn't have all the answers when the book went to press, and I kind of leave the reader hanging there and build up. It's kind of leaves the reader a little bit hanging at the end of chapter 4. But I now have a blog with some of the latest research up there with the updates and corrections, so the reader can get the full picture. The motto for the Air Force Command unit that takes care of maintenance of this plane and flies it is "We See All." So they make no bones about it. This is the plane. This is the plane and all the equipment. So this plane could have done any number of things. We don't know I don't speculate in my book what this thing was doing there, but it could have been doing a lot of things.
Well, like, for example, the command and control center for the whole operation.
Possibly, and it could have been doing remote control. Who knows what. Now, I should mention, we have various reports. See, the story kind of gets complicated because we have there were 3 press reports from the White House that morning, starting at 9:41 of a white plane going over. Okay, and these reports have never been explained because the radar data shows this E-4B command and control plane that took off from Andrews and did a loop over Washington, but it only made that loop over Washington later, after the Pentagon strike, at about 9:46. So there's a time difference here, and we have not been able to explain it. And so the mystery remains. There are still questions about what was going on in Washington, in the skies over Washington. John Farmer has now shown, I believe, that we have multiple pieces of FAA documentation now that they were tracking Flight 77 as early as 9:24 that morning. That's 8 minutes before the official story says in the 9/11 Commission report, and probably even before that. But this definitely punched a hole in the official story, another hole. Well, let me mention my web site, my blog, so that your listeners can go there if they want to get updates and find out more about my book. It's simply www.the911mysteryplane.com. This was put up by my publisher so that I could post updates and corrections and so on, and that's what we've done. And we've got some interesting material up there. I was able to interview Bob Kerr from NBC that morning, and he reported this flyover at the White House, and he declined to be interviewed earlier, but fortunately, when I got him this time, he agreed to talk to me, and his testimony does not agree with the flight path of this other plane from Andrews, and it definitely supports the idea that there was another plane, an unaccounted for plane over Washington. That is what I believe now, and that's what I'm trying to investigate further. I'm trying to get into this issue of stealth technology, though I can tell you it's not easy. I've already contacted 7 or 8 radar experts, military radar experts, and not one of them will talk to me. So, this is a closed field.